Martha Connell.
April 11, Selectmen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
There's new evidence that the Pledge of Allegiance may have been plagiarized.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
I want to hear more.
I like a bit of trivia right before it.
Yeah. There's a memo that was written like 2 years before a certain individual, Francis, something, said he wrote it.
Francis P. Scott was Star Spangled Banner, wasn't it?
Nope,
Yeah.
different
Well,
Francis.
Francis.
It's complicated, we can go over
Francis
that.
Ford Coppola?
No, it's another different Francis.
He's the one who did it.
Somebody Google it, serial number.
That's
All
my
right,
kind of
we're going
Francis
to the
there, Albert.
minutes. $27,014.96 dated March 24th, $183,064.13 dated March 31, and $27,014.96 dated April 7th. Motion and approval, please.
What's the 183, Eleanor? Is that kind of high?
I didn't look, I apologize, I can go look and see what it is, if you want, I can go pull it right now, if you want me to.
Yeah, if you would.
And why don't we move on into the, she's getting it, we'll do on the facility.
Okay.
Sure.
John Newark Town Hall Group Meeting. Want to do them all at once? We'll read through and then we can decide. Newington School, after school tennis. Newington School Town Hall Parent Community Forum. North Star Church Town Hall after funeral gathering, May 1. And Seacoast Fire Chiefs Pat Monahan meeting 5/5. Do them individually or a total?
I assume, Martha, we have insurance certificates from all of them?
Yes, we do.
Good. I'm fine with doing them all.
Okay. Second?
Seconded.
I make the motion we approve all.
Second.
Discussion. All
I
those
do
in
have one
favor?
caveat. So when you say all, the fire chiefs or if there's a police training, those don't require, we have them?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, they don't need insurance. They're
thanks.
covered by the municipal.
Okay, we'll wait for Ella to come back and
I'm
then
here.
we'll go into Eric.
It was, the health bill was in there and the bank card and the school check. The school check, 115, health card is
Okay.
50,000.
I'd recommend approval of all three of those.
Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor? Discussion, all those in favor, it's a vote. Ella, the facility use, they did all together. Bob made the motion and
Thank you,
Brandon seconded it.
thank you.
Eric, you're up, my friend.
Was that just time that you come in as I come up? I guess.
This is Jennifer.
What's that?
This is Jennifer.
That's fine.
So nice to see you.
Yeah,
What would an engineer be without a rolled up plan, huh?
Whoops.
I have some folders. It's good. Welcome.
do you know any chance? Yes, you do, of course you do, sorry.
So Nibble Hill roadway improvements, this is a draft set of plans, and what we're proposing is reconstruction from Fox Point up to Little Bay. And our proposal on, when we look at the road and know the roads, is that you have basically three options. You can just throw in an overlay on top of the pavement. You can do what's called a mill and fill, where you reclaim, cut off, about an inch, inch and a half, and then repave it. Or you can do what we've been doing on what we did in West Road in Portsmouth, which we all remember how horrible that is.
Nice job.
And did Hoover Drive, we just finished on last fall, Bayside Road in Greenland, where you mill the whole roadway, grind it down, and then you add crushed stone. And what that does, and then you mix it in, compact it, and then you add your base course material. What that does is most of these roads, like Bayside and all these others, and Fox Point, are roads that just evolved. They're car paths, they didn't have that full roadway cross-section like you do on a new road. So if you just mill it and fill it, you haven't fixed anything underneath. If you reclaim the whole thing and don't add stone, you still haven't fixed anything underneath. So by cutting the whole thing up, adding the stone, you actually create a base course, sub-base that
Well, that's what
has
we
structural
did
intent.
on Little Bay from basically the transfer station up to McIntyre last year, right?
Little Bay, I don't think we did it.
When you reconfigured the road,
That was a few years ago, so that was,
But just
Because it was
past the reconfiguration, almost about Pickering's driveway, from Pickering's driveway all the way up to McIntyre, last year was done.
oh, okay, that was
that I wasn't involved with, so I don't know what you
mill and
did.
fill 6 inches.
But that section of Nimble Hill we're talking about, and I think you call it, failure, where the road no longer crowns.
Yeah.
The road now has
Yeah,
swales in it.
wheel failure. Yeah.
From, right, so, I think, and that goes from right out here.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to waste our time, we could walk out and there's a huge puddle right
Oh,
here
yeah.
in front of Town Hall, and that's where the wheel failure is.
Right.
And that goes all the way up to
Little Bay.
Little Bay.
And once you get up into Little Bay, one is you don't have as much traffic, and the other is the soil start changing, you have more granular soil underneath, so you don't have the drainage issues. What we found is, cost-wise, that by grinding the whole thing and mixing it up and adding the stone, there isn't much difference in the labor cost and all that. Where your cost is, instead of coming in with, a 2-inch or 1.5 inches of overlay, you're actually coming in with 2.5 inches of base. And then what we've been doing, like we did it on, Bayside, is that you wait the following season and you do the wearing course. And by doing the whole thing, you actually can reshape the road to have your crown in it. So these are the plans that we did. I don't know if you looked at them. They were submitted about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we had them, looked at them, but we haven't studied because we waited for you.
Okay.
So cost-wise,
Well,
you can't, I mean, with the price of oil.
well, I
and
can tell you
everything
that the cost today is probably 2% what it was yesterday, and then
Yeah.
it just,
Can we do this in stages?
well, that's why we're suggesting that we bit off a chunk from Fox Point to Little Bay. You
Right.
could make it smaller if you wanted, but we also are only suggesting that you do the binder this year, and then you come back next year and do the wearing course.
When was the last time, Martha, do you know on the, kind of that road improvement plan that we have from Rockingham County, when the last time that section of road was taken care of?
It's been at least 10 years.
About 10 years, and how long, Eric, if they did, not just the mill and fill, but if they actually put the stone in?
We're seeing, it depends on, what you're seeing for traffic, but it's probably about 2x of what you would get if you just overlaid it or just did a mill and fill.
Say that again?
It's
2
about
times?
2 times, yeah.
I think it needs to be done right, though.
We've done a lot of things half-assed and it comes back to bite us, it costs us more in the long run. I'd rather see it done correctly.
Yeah, I think what you're gonna see is you're gonna be happier if you keep biting off these little chunks and doing them right, rather than, just putting stuff in.
So you
Everyone's
recommended-
happy that summer.
Are you recommending to do the whole piece from this intersection all the way up to the Little Bay intersection? Yeah. And then just do the base coat and then do the wearing course next year?
Correct. And you can bid it as an ad alternate, so if the numbers come in really good, you either A, we can extend it out further, or you could go and do the wearing course, but I think that spending a season on the binder is not a bad thing. It's what we like to see when you're building a road anyway, with, you know, subdivisions and so forth.
Under your comment,
I would just say that the board has recommended to the budget committee that the road be done in the old-fashioned way from Shattuck to the school driveway and then from Fox Point to Little Bay. I'm worried about the numbers and how high they're going to be. So, as Eric mentioned, I mean, maybe another approach is, well, depends on how the board wants to move forward, but you, go ahead and bid it the old way and also bid it this new, with this new method. Just to see what you've
Yeah,
got.
from-
This section is really bad,
From Shattuck up to the school driveway is not as bad as
right?
this other section. And we're holding off on that section until the development goes in over there anyway, so.
Right.
If we have to do anything, I would just as soon do the worst section first. Cause I live there.
you want a pedestrian light for you, you're getting older, you're
No,
walking, so that.
No, I don't. I wear very bright colors when I walk in this town, for a good reason.
So I will say that after it's paved, you're gonna have more enforcement issues.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The road's falling apart in front of my house. Steve keeps talking about repaving it, and I said, no, no. I said, every little drive by too fast.
Just an opinion, might be premature to say which way you should go with it when you don't know what the cost differences are, A. B, we don't know how long this Band-Aid fix that we've had out here has lasted. And remember, that was through heavy traffic when 16 was a disaster, and we were experiencing 3, 4, 5 times the traffic coming through town from McIntyre. You know, if that was done 15 years ago and it's in this shape, and it's 75% of the cost, 70% of the cost, 50% of the cost, super optimistically, well, that's a kind of a no-brainer. You get more for your money that way.
The problem at this point just is that if the sub base is all broken up, if you grind it up, you're gonna, or just, you know, just do a mill, it's still broken underneath. And so you're just putting down pavement that really doesn't have a lot of structural integrity, that the following season, you'll see that whole thing broken up.
So do you think that maybe it would seem that the sub base is in worse condition than it would have been before when it was refinished?
Well, I wouldn't say the sub base has changed. What it is it's just, it probably went too many years in between, so that the pavement is in such poor condition that, you know, it's like painting your house without scraping the paint.
Yeah. But like, you've obviously looked at the road, I mean, can you tell that there's structural?
Yeah, I mean, you can, because of the wheel ruts and everything else, you can tell that you don't have that same, full depth.
And we're Band-Aid patched and done everything else in certain sections of that road for years. Every spring it breaks up and we have to go and listen to the few people who want their driveways fixed and everything else.
I agree with Martha. I think we should bid it and look at both costs, but I'm in favor of doing it the correct way. But let's get the bid for, but especially from here up to Little Bay, that just can't be blacktopped over. That's gotta be ground out all the way.
I hate to be penny wise and pound foolish here, but maybe some detail would help on which sections really need that, or it could be a hybrid, right? It's not probably
Yeah.
one that has a wheel run.
If you're, it'd be a challenge to do it as a hybrid, because now you have to bring in both a milling machine and a grinding machine.
Okay.
So you wanna come in, they can grind the whole thing in a day, you know, one pass up, one pass back, and it's all ground up.
Okay.
So I think that method you choose. Plus then you're out there as the engineer saying, well, we're not gonna grind this, we're only gonna mill this piece, and then you're measuring each little piece and
Right.
and you end up in not as good of a situation.
Well, we're getting late in the season, I would think, if we're going out to bid, I imagine most roadways are out to bid by now.
You know, the first pass.
Okay,
So, you know, this isn't necessarily a bad time to bid because.
no, but I don't wanna put it out drag our feet longer, cause then we get caught like we do a lot of times in the fall, we can't do it, we rush and we don't get what we want.
Yeah.
So I think we should move on. Bob's upset at us, he's leaving.
I mean, we can bid it as option A and option B, that's not really much more effort.
Okay.
To mill it in as option A, and then with a 2-inch overlay, or 2.5-inch overlay, and then we can bid it with the whole grind and the stone
How soon do you get the plans and the specs all together?
within a couple weeks.
May sometime.
Yes.
Need a motion to proceed?
I'd make the motion we proceed specifically with the section from here at Town Hall up to the cemetery at Little Bay. That section, through the full grind. I don't even see any sense in getting just the second price on just a little mill and fill. I've seen the depth of the rut there, that's gonna have to be the full thing. The section from the school driveway down to the Gulf Station, Shattuck, that one I could see us,
No.
milling and filling. But
we're not.
not gonna touch that because of the new development going in down there until probably next year. So even though we had wanted to do that whole section, I don't think we're gonna get that one done this year.
A second to that?
Second.
Second.
So that is not having an option, now it's just doing it for ground. Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Don't leave yet.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay.
I didn't hear that other one.
What else you got before us tonight? What do we got before you tonight?
What do you have before me? I think there was some
You got that?
discussion.
Huh?
The Dumpling Cove,
The board has in their packets the Dumpling Cove specs that our friend Mr. Reiner has developed, and we are ready to place it out to bid. This will be fully paid for by Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain.
Need a motion on Dumpling Cove.
It's not over here.
That's him.
It's right under the next tab.
I make the motion that we proceed with the bid on the Dumpling Cove
And
drainage
funded
clearing
privately.
project, to be funded by Mr. Chamberlain.
Second.
Second, further discussion? Question
I
from the
have a
audience?
quick question. I'm assuming that's an individual private project. It will be done according to town standards?
Absolutely.
That's what my spec is about.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Custom pools, the land by
Yeah.
custom pool. You and Bob walked it.
Yes, as well as,
Dennis
Mr.
was there.
Hebert walked it.
And we haven't had anything from the state.
Nothing.
nothing from the state. And I think we should write a letter to the governor, to the executive counselor, and to the state senator, and our state reps, and telling them that we've done this, we've dragged the feet since last fall on this, and we would like to have some action and hear from the DOT, I guess it would be.
Correct.
And I had somebody call me, this is together with the state reps, that Newington's not part of Greenland anymore. This gerrymandering, or whatever they wanna call it, the mapping of the zoning. I don't know when Newington's gonna be. I haven't been able to find out. I just found out on Saturday that we might not be.
I saw Dennis Malloy out in town, he said that he thought that Portsmouth was with us.
I think it is too, but what ward, not the whole city, I mean, that makes a big difference on where we go. So I think we gotta look into that, I think the Senate should remain the same. The council, you know, the way they moved it, it hasn't been voted on yet, to my knowledge.
Well, it was voted on, and didn't the governor veto it?
Well, it's in the limbo state somewhere along the line, yeah. They don't come back and try to override the veto, but we should be on top of it now, so that if we get any input, we should put it in now, of who we go with.
Yeah,
Certain wards and parts that you don't agree with, they don't care.
We can wait on the letter to the state senator till we find out who it is, but the letter to the transportation commissioner and the governor, I think, ought to go
Right away, oh, yes, yeah, no, I wouldn't hold up on that, right. Do you have any problem with this right now, Heather?
Nope.
Anything else you got, my friend?
Anything on the Hannah Lane? Drainage,
The,
is that all set?
Mrs. Abbott and the family would like, spray seeding.
I just see.
I don't see it.
I checked with the vendor, the construction group, it will be an extra $200 to do that. The board is
Move
okay
forward.
with that, we gotta get it done.
Okay,
There's another reason why I don't sleep at
Hydro seed?
night. Exactly.
anything else we gotta bring up with? All right. Martha,
That's all I got.
Brandon?
Oh, actually, there is one other thing. So we've gotten the as-bills back for Wilcox Way,
Wilcox?
and I'm fine with those. I went back out, I looked at it, and there was a couple pieces of trash and some silk fence that was still
Go
there.
behind you.
I,
Your friends.
might be my son.
They're doing.
Crazy what he's doing
No,
now.
that one's your friend, the one that's running last.
Don't push him.
And so I'm fine with it. I had the question back that had the, licenses been addressed where he had the encroachment as well as on
Easements.
the easements. And so that's, I'm good, and I also don't know the process if the planning board needs to act on it and how that works, because that was completely a
We'll
different
work out the
animal.
mechanics of it and take it from there. As long as you.
What yeah, exactly, I'm saying,
Yeah,
I'm good.
good. We'll do the internal mechanics now.
Great.
All right. That's it. Thank you so much. Cover a lot of
Thanks for
material.
earlier.
so.
Thank you. Can I have a full-size one?
Great.
We paid for it, we should be able to have.
Thanks for the explanation, Eric.
You know something, I don't think I remembered to write that down.
Owen was asking about the minutes. Did you guys approve the minutes?
We haven't done the minutes yet.
No, we have minutes.
No.
All
Okay.
right. Approve the minutes of,
Thank you.
Thank you for coming
Good
early.
night.
Thank you.
Appreciate the explanation.
approve the minutes of March 21.
I'll be in a minute.
The second is motion made, seconded. All in
Second.
favor? Aye.
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 Look at that, good deal.
All right, rec committee. Becky, you here or?
I'm gonna let Jess, but I'm here as a, more of a support, like the recreation committee. But the the recreation committee supported her.
The board has the playground cover letter and details of the 3 options, as well as the rec committee's unanimous recommendation for the 3rd option, the Burke Zip Venture with Bolt to Play EWF, for a total of $25,046.
Well, before we proceed with this, I think we have a letter, before us to, put Jessica on the rec committee.
That's what I was just gonna say, is that I was looking at it to see if she was on, the agenda, but I know that,
We haven't acted on it yet, but we.
okay,
We do have a letter, correct?
Yes, we do.
yep, okay.
I'd like to act on that letter so that
So that
then she's
she's
presenting
official.
to us as
Yeah.
a member of the rec committee rather than as a private citizen.
Absolutely.
And since we looped it into our, which is good.
All right, the motion's made, seconded,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, you're a member.
All right, now you are a member of the rec committee.
It's kind of a swap, if we don't get Jess, we get Dana, like.
Okay? Now we should proceed.
Do you, I don't know if you have questions, I kinda gave you everything I know, and I don't know if you want me to just say what it is, or.
Great.
Anything, what's the recommendation of the rec committee?
The recommendation is that we were for her suggestion, and the only thing we were working on is the approval of what the board feels about the slides.
Well, two separate things, like one is, approving, so I put forth 3 quotes for 3 different zip lines. The rec committee voted unanimously for option number 3, but you have all 3 of those options there. And then, what we've not ever discussed with you is location. I had originally planned on putting them along the back fence line from the slides going back, as you can see on the image, but we discussed that the final layout of the playground would be vastly improved, we all felt, if we took the slides out a year early, or 2 years early, or whatever. We took the slides out, put the zip line there, with the plan of putting the slides in the empty space where they look like they should go when we put new slides in.
Say we do have, if people are wanting a slide, we do have our other playground just down the street that they can enjoy 2 slides there in the
Brings up a
interim mode.
question. Why do we have 2 big playgrounds?
The playground at school, obviously we have to have a playground at school. We've always had the playground at the old town hall, or for decades have had the playground at the old town hall. Camp runs at the old town hall, so the kids at camp, that's the main time it's used is for all of camp. It probably gets more use than most playgrounds during that time, since the kids are outside from 8 to 5 every day.
What also helps is that the school has to have a certain parameter that they are not allowed to have anybody in the area during school hours.
We
So-
understand that.
Yes, so I think what the other playground helps is that for those town residents that may have a grandchild, or if they attend the Christian Academy or Berwick Academy and they, or some other school that they have the day off, they also have another option to go there. But it does also help that we have the playground right next to where we hold camp and 80% of our events. So
Have you ever had thought of having a camp at the school?
that would have to be something through the school board that we'd
I
have to work
understand.
with. Yeah.
It's gotta start somewhere, I
Can I
don't
say
think we
one
should
more
start here.
thing? Can I add to her playground? The playground at the old town hall also has accommodations for 2 to 5-year-olds, which the school doesn't have. So there's toddler seats and toddler play areas.
Great. Ted, if I might jump in, we did look years ago at the summer program with the school. The problem is the school gets torn apart in the summertime. They strip the floors, they do, one into the other. But I've been in many schools during the summer, but different training programs. You couldn't do it and still function, but the school has always said no.
I don't think the word says you couldn't do it. I I think it can be if you work with the plan out correctly.
I don't, if you could get the school board to agree, I'd be very surprised.
I'm just asking, have you ever approached school?
Many, many years ago.
Many years ago, not recently.
Not very recent.
See, it seems like we're building up a playground for an old town hall, because there's camp there now, but I don't know if there's any, what the long-term plans are for camp, or,
That's a whole nother issue right now.
well, they're intimately related though, if you wanna
Yeah,
put money into it, because camp.
right.
Where-
That's a big part of it, I mean, people do use it other times. Obviously,
Right.
we have town events there.
And now that it's been improved, there's a lot more families that have been using that playground more than down here, so to speak.
I think it was 2 years ago when the playground had structural concerns. We didn't discuss just tearing it out. We discussed fixing it, making it safe and making it better, and, I mean,
Well, I'm just looking at the economy of scale, I'm not advocating
Yeah.
any of these things, but I think they should be pursued, and they should be looked into, the central playground, the central building, save the old town hall, it gets pretty beat up during that time, but
I mean, there's
it's for kids, so I have no problem.
to be said for the kids getting a change of scenery after a school year.
The strongest one. What are the costs just to move the slides also, have them reinstalled?
Well, we were always going, I mean, the plan was always to remove those slides and replace them. Taking them out, I haven't specifically asked the firemen pulled out the swings last year. Removal, if we do it as a town, I don't know if there's a specific cost that I've laid out. The town wasn't billed for removing the swings last time. It's the same, I mean, people in town with a tractor are gonna dig the ground up and prepare it. We can yank the slides out and dispose of them, and then, otherwise it's the installation there. The part 3 of the project that we had planned and discussed is to replace the slides, which is probably gonna be a $20,000 project, to have brand new slides put in, and then that would complete the whole playground plan.
Have you got plans? You got phases, this and that, they've never been presented to us, I don't believe, maybe I'm mistaken, but I'd like to see what
We
the
did.
phases are, and we have a better time when it comes to budget season,
Okay,
what we can do and what it is, and
okay, I mean, when I did my first presentation the first time, that was laid
but
out.
you weren't part of the rec committee then, and everything should go
Yeah.
through the rec committee, and it should have the blessings of the rec committee. I think you've done a hell of a job, an outstanding job, but you should, if we let everybody do it, we'll be having all this crazy stuff. It should go through the committee, and the committee should authorize it and give it its blessings.
She did meet with us on the first process of it, and we worked together on it, and she represented it, so it was in conjunction with us on that first process, yeah.
And now we're going forward doing it through the rec, I mean,
All
Phase three
we're
would be
looking for here is the plans, what's being done, how it's being done, so it's easy to follow and track.
okay.
Am I speaking out of school on this?
Oh, we could definitely do that, and I'll take to circle back, I will discuss with the committee about the school and camp together, but I did think of something else that we work with the library a lot with camp. So the kids go to the library at least once or twice a week, so that they walk through the woods, and then also when it's a rainy day, that we don't have 40 kids in the old town hall, they kind of separate and go over to the library too on rainy days, so that does make a benefit of it being at the old town hall, that we don't
Good
lose the
point.
library.
It's a good
So-
point.
What's up with the, sorry, let's stay on topic for now.
Can I respond to the slides part 3 phase? I mean, the plan, or the plan that the rec committee has kind of, it's always been, let's try, see if we can get step 1 done, then let's try and get step 2 done, then let's try and get step 3 done. Instead of laying out a giant scary project to say we're doing all this in 1 year. But as far as removing the slides now, the slides are, I mean, yes, there's a chance we may remove the slides and then never replace them, but that's not the rec committee's goal. And you know, every time I talk to anybody about the playground, they're like, when are you taking those slides out? Like, nobody likes the slides. They're,
So they're hot.
they're,
Yeah,
they're
I don't know
hot,
how
they're,
we don't know how they pass code
I mean, they're
with how,
technically to
Well,
code.
cause they were
but-
probably put in when Ted was a youth.
yeah.
But I mean,
They couldn't be that old,
They're not-
there'd be splinters in there by
but the
now.
code.
I don't remember them, so.
I'm sure he burned his butt on them when he was
Yeah,
a
The
child.
code measurements they are within the current code, like current standard, otherwise I would have advocated for removing them the first time. But I was trying to keep costs down for each step. But yeah, I mean, they're not, if they came out and we replaced it with a zip line, I guarantee every kid would be happy. And would be like, what slides? We have slides at school. But rather than putting them in a spot that preserves the slides and then ultimately we have this sort of wonky looking playground, it made sense to plan better, I mean, at least logistically planning out what our final project would look like that's actually nice and not, you know, piecemeal, haphazard.
Now, with the town passed the money for the zip line to the recreation committee, right? And the recreation committee is advocating we use it.
No, I think what happened at town vote was the zip line was shot down,
Right.
but then
The increase.
the increase was to the rec committee.
Right.
So now the rec committee is making a recommendation to us for expenditure of those funds.
That's fine, but are you dipping into the reserve at all to do some of the projects you're working on this year?
We raised the fund to include that, but we also were waiting on, some committee members wanted to, as far as the baseball field, we're waiting for one more quote to come in. Some members wanted a couple more, an additional quote than what we had, so we're waiting on that. And then, Bill also got, his approval with the repair that is gonna be going on the tennis court as well, so.
Did you send us a sheet what you're doing or how much it is and where everything is and the bottom line and with like that, because you know, a little here, a little there, but we don't get the.
Becky, you think you get enough money in your cap reserve to take care of all those projects?
Well, it was already discussed of what we had for, is what we needed so far, because we knew baseball was gonna be a big one, because it hasn't been touched in, quite some time. I don't know when the last time it was done, but I know it's at least 10 years that.
What's the recommendation for the ball? I mean, the quote that you currently have, how much is that?
I that a little bit, Brian's got.
And what work is to be done down there?
I might have to touch base with Brian and get back to you without looking it up right now on the phone, but, and we also had a little league team, a couple coaches that have also made some, recommendations to the town resident that, you know, some repairs, and I also had that resident touch base with Brian as well, so that we can, you know, work together as a discussion to, you know, do what's best without going, you know, having one quote compared to maybe them having a suggestion to on another agency that Portsmouth uses, so.
I mean, are we talking just like rototilling or filling the field with clay, or we talking about redoing the backstops, building dugouts, you know?
I know that, you know, the base, the back needs a lot of work, and I know that the benches and so on, we may have to do some work with that, because as Pete had said, there were some safety issues with not allowing the kids to go near that too, because of the condition they are in. And we know that definitely the grounds, so to speak, even the gentleman that used to rent, so to speak, from us said that needs to be I'm not a baseball person, so I don't know the technical terms of it right now, but just the dirt, so to speak, and that's why, you know, Brian's overseeing that he knows more about it than some of us do, but.
Yeah, I think if,
We may need to we've been talking about possibly putting up like some sort of like barrier, so to speak, of where the marsh starts, because if balls get knocked into there, we don't want people like, some sort of barrier so that doesn't happen.
yeah, but if we want that field to be up to Little League standards, I think we should probably check with Portsmouth Little League
Yes.
And find out what are the ballpark standards.
Yep.
You know, if our goal is to have that used for like a game day, that's gonna be the Newington kids' home field and, you know, teams from cause I know they play in the Portsmouth League.
Yeah.
So if Portsmouth teams are gonna come here, you know, we don't want a field that's substandard and not
Right.
up to Little League standards.
Wait, is that what we're doing? We're
But
making
we
a
have
little
to,
league?
we have to fall within our parameters too of our budget. We
Is that-
can't go, you know, like,
Right.
I would love it for it to be,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what
you're-
I want to know.
Or
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it,
that's-
is it just
right, and
practice
that's
field?
what,
Well, there's not
So
even a
we're-
team here. There's not a softball or a baseball
no,
team.
Newington, like, it's kind of like in Greenland too, kind of
Yeah. we-
co-ops type of
Like
thing,
it's
like,
even
you know,
the
like
SAU.
basketball too, did
But
the
is
same
it,
thing.
is it just a practice field?
They're using it as practice right now, and it was, the recreation committee is aware that, the resident is using it for practice at this time, and it's a play at your own risk thing because of the condition of the field, so to speak. And he was referred to, you know, fill out the event form, so to speak, so that if, you know, any other people may want to use it, so it's a play at your own risk type of practice field right now.
This is
So-
probably what it'll be, even when it's improved, I would assume.
And we did tell him that if work starts, that they're gonna have to find, you know, possibly somewhere else to practice, and we'll definitely, when that gets voted on and approved, we'll go from there.
I wanna
So,
hear-
right, so it's used by Portsmouth Little League 5 days a week for practice, cause there are 8 to 10 Newington kids on that
Okay.
practice there. So they've been doing this for years and years and years, no games, it's just a practice field. They've never indicated they wanna use it for games.
But every year they notify.
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah,
go
so-
through the facilities and all that, yeah, we do that every year, but it's never been a game field, cause they have their Portsmouth Little League
Right.
field for games, really nice place to play.
South Mill Pond area.
Yeah, I've never heard it for games, they never asked us,
Okay,
me, for games.
so in the hierarchy of needs here, you got, safety concern on the baseball field that needs to be, you don't know how much that's gonna be yet?
We haven't voted on our quote yet, but once we have our additional quote, we'll
And then what comes second, Becky, the
tennis.
tennis court over the zip line?
Well, it just depends on the repair work and once that gets voted on too, so. We haven't voted, we have the quotes for, we're waiting on the quote for baseball, and then Bill has, the quote for the tennis. And then once the zip line's approved too, it's gonna depend on the amount of work this week. But we will list it all out and present it to the board.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, even if it's like Ted's asking for,
Yeah.
long range, how many phases you do at what playground, whatever.
completely
But
understand that,
even
but
if
that's
you
why.
had a 12-month of, this is how much money in, this is how much money out, these are
Yeah.
our priorities, this is
Yeah.
the quotes and stuff like
Yeah.
that, so.
I completely understand, like, that's the same thing we did with the playground, we brought forth the presentation of the stages, because we knew the town was probably gonna be in shock with the big number, so we did it in stages so that it wasn't so extreme.
Mhm.
And we did tell the town it's gonna be in stages, and, the residents were aware of that, so we're not doing this as just throwing everything around, we're doing this in a proper, taking in consideration of our budgets too.
With the $35,000 raised through town meeting, there's no expectation, as far as I know, we're gonna do the
I've got the bid, my
expectation.
phone, if you wanna hear what the bid
Hold on
was.
a second, Jack.
What the, I'm sorry, what you said.
The expectation was that an extra 10,000 for the tennis courts and 25,000 for the playground, we should, between that and what was in the rec, capital reserve, there was no expectation to
Right.
be draining the capital reserve
So,
fund.
Jess, that's the
Yeah.
point of what you guys were
Yes.
saying earlier, though,
Yeah.
is the process of that is,
Yes.
the rec department has to
Right.
come and say, here's our top priorities, this is where we'd like to spend money, selectmen, can you please sign this?
And that's why we want to discuss, rather than just, that's why we're here, to have this discussion, to see what it is that, the expectations and our plans, and we'll
And
work on it.
Becky, I did find the bid that Brian got for us, if you can get it on mail, so
Yep.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Okay, this was one, we did get one bid, this is back a few months ago. In its scope of work, edge out all infield areas, remove 3 to 4 inches of existing weeds and soil, rebuild pitcher's mound, to get home, set home plate, at 3 to 4 inches of infill mix over all dirt playing areas. Grade, roll, and fine tune for play, remove all debris from property. That was a $6,000 bid. That was we only had one, and that was that was in December, I think.
So that's all earthwork, Jack, that's not the benches or the backstop
No,
fence
we
or anything?
took care of backstop way back when our kids used to play with it. So it's basically, it's all grounds work. And the last time, 2 years ago, we had it in the budget to do that, and the bid came in way over what we had budgeted, so we couldn't do it. That's why it's been sitting there for a few years.
Can you get what you want for $6,000?
I don't know,
You're
we're
gonna
waiting
get
for,
a half job, and then,
well,
we gotta do this, and we didn't
that's
have
a full
enough.
scope of work, but we're waiting for a couple more bids, and we'll see what,
Well, the season's almost over, Little League season will be over, almost over by the end of school year. We'll be better off to do a good spec and put it out to bid and have it ready for next year.
might be
I
ready
don't
for,
know.
well, they play soccer there in the fall too, so, I mean, I don't know.
I'm just thinking of
But if
economy of
they-
scale here.
But if they do the ballpark in, late summer into the fall, then it'll be ready to go first thing in the spring for
Right.
next year.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, that's fine. I just wanna see something of a plan.
Yeah,
That we're still waiting and we got a bid in December. And then we sit here with Eric and he said, well, the bids we're putting out last week are 2% higher this week and it'll be 4% higher the next week because of construction and oil and everything else.
well, that's why we're jumping on the players,
Yeah, so-
because they went back, oh, well, in 6
Right.
months, it's gonna be this, like.
Well, and
That's
from,
why it'd be nice if we had something
Yeah, yeah.
concrete.
like Brendan, your point of like the priorities, and I get that the zip line is the newer addition, and it's a new addition, it's not fixing the old stuff, the tennis courts and the ballpark, so it may not be first on the list. Being that it was my project, as soon as it got approved, I jumped on making sure I had absolutely every duck in a row for this meeting, because the lead times for getting the zip lines, one company was December, but 2 of them are June and July, and the one we went for was June. Basically just a goal of trying to get this in so the kids can enjoy it this camp. So timing wise, I'm nearly on the rec, I will say it is timing wise probably on the top of the list. But, being that it's not an emergency to put it in, because there's not a broken zip line there, it's just,
I hope you didn't take
Right.
it as I was labeling your priorities as a committee. I'm just
I
asking what they
understand.
are.
yeah, no, and I new to the committee, I'm not gonna say what they are, but it seems from the perspective of like, we're here presenting one thing that has everything lined up and we're still getting quotes on everything else, it looks like the priorities are different, and I don't know, they're not that different, it's just that the quotes I was getting last year are significantly higher, 20% or more higher than they were before, and the lead times are so long for this, and we have the goal of, we're obviously not fixing the whole field for this season, but we could get this in for an appreciable amount of the summer, which is
Just,
the quote, the
you
goal.
have the control, tell us what you're doing and give us a list of it, and we'll review it.
I hear you, Ted, and we meet day after tomorrow. I'll add it on there that's priority 2, that we do plans. However, Camp Newington is just as much as a priority as this, because we're getting on a time, stamp too, but
So Camp Newington's ready to go, right?
no. And that's why they're gonna be equal priority, because that's a topic of another, I don't wanna say dilemma, so to speak, but it is what it is. But we are preparing and meeting twice in the next couple weeks, because we are planning in the event that the Y doesn't do it. Because we're
Why's
getting
committed to
to,
it? Right, why committed to it?
no,
Right.
well, they said they were going to, but we've been back and forth, and she's getting pushback from her corporate for as far as not holding it, so.
When did we find this out?
She may meet with us next week, and she's on vacation this week, and she may meet with us next week, so I said, we're gonna start getting our ball rolling to get planning.
We were under the
Well,
impression
we're
that
under
they
the
were
impression-
definite. weren't we?
Yes,
We were
absolutely.
too, and I'm just to the point now that we're getting too close to our comfort, and I would rather us start planning in a way that they don't, and that,
Before you make any decisions, I wanted to come through this board,
oh,
because,
yeah,
because
But-
of past histories and everything else, we're very concerned.
right, and so are we. We get just as stressed about, I mean, I'm not even, that's a whole other discussion too, Ted, as far as statements have been made that, about to us lately, as far as, you know, we should feel bad for how much work they put into it,
It's
or,
irrelevant,
and-
it's irrelevant,
No.
we got a
No, it's
commitment
relevant.
here.
it is relevant, because that's not okay to make statements and then don't give us the opportunity to have the discussion with the board on what those statements meant, or perhaps there was a misunderstanding. And it should be relevant for us to have a discussion, that's what we're both here for. Like, if you're gonna make comments about another department or another committee, then that committee should be allowed to have a discussion with that board on what they meant by the comments, or that we put just as much as effort, so when comments are made that Eleanor and Martha, we should feel bad of how much work they put into it. It's
Who made that comment?
one of the selectmen meeting that we were here, Mike said, you should take into consideration how much effort Martha and Eleanor put into Camp Newington. And
Did he say you should feel bad?
I'm just telling you the impression that the committee, and I know, and Martha, by no means, when the email you said to me, is it me? It's not
I
just
think what his
me, it's,
intention was when he said that was, based on the amount of time they put into it, you know, with your full-time director, that's kind of a baseline for what type of time that person's gonna put into it. I think that's the only thing he meant. I don't think he meant you should feel bad, or that there was hard feelings one way or another.
well, see, that's the trouble with perception, because that there wasn't an opportunity to give discussion about this. I'm not the only member that was disappointed in that comment, and so it wasn't just, so in a way, I took it that way. I'm not only the only member that took it that way, because when it was, said that way, we thought, oh, maybe it's the HR side of things that, you know, that might have taken a lot, or maybe it was, you know, us emailing things, and we could see that. So we chose, you know, when Martha said she wants to be on all of the emails with the Y, we took it as, okay, well then maybe that's taking up a lot of her time, so we discussed we'll just update her with any major decision, which there hasn't been any major decision, because we've been going back and forth with Kelly as far as, can you meet with us, and can't meet with you, okay, can we discuss the contract, and we had the contract, and the committee made, you know, adjustments to the contract, can you meet with us so we can discuss the contract, and then it got put off again.
Becky, is it possible, as somebody who's completely uninvolved in all this,
Mhm.
I could just give you an outside looking in?
Yep.
The town does have a sincere interest in what happens for camp, because the town's very involved in that, it's not
Yeah.
just a rep
Yeah.
event, right?
Yeah.
It's really important for a few really good reasons that somebody at the selectmen or the town administration office is involved in this, so we know what's happening.
Right.
Like if they told you, hey, I'm getting some pushback, I don't think this is gonna happen, it's really important that
Yeah.
this office.
And
knows
but we're getting, yeah, I can meet with you guys next week, so we get told that, and then so I email and say, can you meet with us? We're meeting this, and we meet with once a month, and yes, we did kinda have to wait until the vote to see what was happening.
Right.
But that's why it's important also that we have these discussions, so that we can discuss about this and how things are perceived or taken, or, because I was a little disappointed by that comment, and so were others, and it did come across to us in a way that it was like, well, wait a minute, we're volunteers, and this is a committee where we're supposed to have fun. It's not supposed to be a job, and when stuff is said like that, and there's no discussion about it, that's what's important, to kind of meet and discuss it, so it isn't taken out of proportion.
I hope
So
that,
that it's like, because I don't want it to be like that, and if we can have a discussion and so it's not blown out of proportion more, or, you know, like, I had a discussion with you, Bob, at town meeting, and, you know, and you were concerned of how over budget we were, and that also how much the town office, and that's why I wanted to have a discussion too, because we weren't as over budget as some people perceive because of the whole FICA thing, and that's why that line item's been added. We weren't as 30 grand as over, but some people read it that way.
No, I'm not concerned about you guys being over.
Yep.
And my only comment, or I guess my main point to you was that this next budget season, I think we as a town can do a lot better job
Right,
in helping you guys
Yeah.
prepare budget.
yes,
You know, as we've seen from town meeting,
Yeah.
I think this town is willing to spend money on recreation items
yes,
if it's presented with a plan.
Yep.
The who, what, when, where, how, and why. So, what the town gets in a tizzy over is when things come forward and just add it on and add it on and add it on. You know, 10,000 here, 20,000 there. Well, all those numbers add up. My impression of this town is if you lay all the paperwork on the table and you say, hey, this is gonna cost us $75,000, and it's on one sheet of paper, and the budget committee can review that, and they say, all right, all of these items make sense, they all need to be done, tennis court, the ball field, the playground. Things tend to fly through the selectmen, they fly through budget, then they fly through town meeting.
and that's why it's important that we wanted this role, is because we're volunteers, and we don't meet as frequently as these roles, so to speak, should have a person that's paid to do it, make sure we're not going out of compliance with equipment or checking on things, or in Camp Newington, that there should be a role that oversees that, and that we should have more discussions, because yes, I agree, like, last year was tumultuous because it was our first year doing it. There were things that we could have done much better,
I
and
think
yes,
this is the discussion that we should have with the rec committee as a whole and go over the problems and the thing, and you come in and make a presentation to us. I think right now we're shooting buckshot here, buckshot there. The big thing right now is we're gonna focus on the camp.
I
We're
don't,
gonna get a hold of the why, we're gonna nail that down. As far as I'm concerned, it was nailed down, and I think the other selectmen felt very strongly on that.
we thought so too, she zoomed with us,
Well,
and you
why
had
didn't
Martha.
you tell us right away, I'm not giving you hell, but why didn't you tell us? We might have been able to get into the
And I've
center.
asked, I followed what it was, and I'm not meaning to direct this on you, but I also asked to be put on the agenda in February. I gave the exact same content that in my email that you provide, that the select board asked to meet with us on, and I was told that I had to come back with more information, or, you know, and I did reach out, I called your house a few
I
times.
returned the call. Took me 2
Yeah,
days.
I
to
did,
return the
and
call.
Right?
We-
No,
no,
let's just
no.
back up,
No,
Maggie.
I called 3 times. I've called the Connor's house 3 times. One time I spoke to Liz and she said you were resting. So I said I will attempt to call back, but I have to go buy eggs and get to the meeting, for the egg hunt, get to the meeting. I shall do my best. And there was another time. I'm not here to, like, this is, when it gets into prosecution mode and then defense mode, there's no active listening. I agree with you, we have to sit down to talk about this. I don't think we should do so as a presentation basis. I think, like in past, we should do select board meets with the recreation committee like we did in the past, so that we have a quorum and votes can be made to get this locked in, because I don't think we should be spending the time, that's my opinion.
Is there a compromise somewhere? I mean, sometimes it almost sounds to me like, especially listening to the budget the past few years, sometimes the rec committee being volunteers and wanting to be involved more, and they have ideas about things that are fun and that kind of stuff. A lot of times they struggle with the process of how to move things along, which I think the budget committee really concerns itself with. If you'd like, maybe I can, and tell me if I'm out of turn here, but the next rec committee meeting, I can come and try to help you guys.
Yep.
Move through. a couple of
Absolutely,
those.
we are, I welcome it,
This
I
is
always
what
just
we're
want
focused on.
discussion, I don't want it, well, they say this, we take it this way, or we say this, like, we are completely welcome with anybody approaching us as far as the article and as far as any sort of activity. We
Seems to me
just-
the
like-
roadblock is
like with
them
the-
getting through the
okay, the
bureaucracy
example-
of working with the town, but everybody has to work with the town, everybody has to do that, to work with the town, right?
But the same thing with the ice rink, we recently had town residents that wanted to use the ice rink during the school hours, there's no posting. So we took the time of reaching out to Pete to say, hey, can you come to the meeting and sit down with us to discuss this? We take the time to, reach out to these boards, or like, let's just have a discussion instead of he said, she said, that's all we are asking for, because I know I'm not the only one that's frustrated, and I don't want it to get to the point, I enjoy this, but if it gets to the point it's not fun, then we're gonna lose members, and it's,
How did that discussion go with him, by the way, about the ice rink?
it's tough, because we understand his, safety protocols, however, he doesn't have it signed, we discussed that with him, that there's no way for our town residents to know, you cannot be in this area at such and such a times. So we told him you may wanna approach, the board about working through something like that. But there's also some members that feel that if the school wants it 3/4 of the week, then the school should also be contributing to the budget of said ice rink if they're gonna have it under their bubble.
That's a novel idea, huh?
So there's some of us that feel that way, but then there's some of us that, they,
It all comes out of the same
kids,
pot.
yeah, I
Yeah,
get
but
it,
you know what, Ted, we've been told, and I've heard the words right out of Pete's mouth, he owns 2 feet from outside the building, 2 feet, and that's all he owns.
Yeah.
But he only says that when it comes down to paying for redoing the ball field or redoing the ice rink.
Plow in the driveway.
All the other times, we hear those discussions from 2 feet outside the building. But when it comes to recess in the school grounds, he owns the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I asked Becky to talk to him and say, hey, couldn't we come to a compromise where, let's say there's a couple in town and they go over there and they're skating and then they hear the recess bell. Well, okay, if there's a sign up there that says, when recess is in session, you have to vacate the ice
Yield
rink.
to children, right?
Well, then you get in your car, you warm up, you drive down to Mitchell's, get a cup of coffee, you come back, by then recess is over, you can go back to skating again.
yeah.
But why do we have it locked down for the entire school day to include after school? They say, oh, after school, we run an after school program, so you can't even be on 10. So, I just don't think that's right to the town that we pay for the ice rink, we pay for the tennis courts, we pay for the playground, and yet we can't even use them.
Right, cause there's,
And it should come up on a discussion.
Exactly.
At that meeting.
Yeah.
We could be, Jeff, you had something.
Yeah,
We-
back, I'm Phil, the town historian sometimes, but back probably 35 years ago, when this rec used to meet in the old stone school, that's how long ago it was, we regularly had a selectman show up to the meetings, to follow up on not always, but when they could, and help the communications and got some advice from your end too, so I think you'd be welcome to the meetings. I'm not the chair, Becky is, but.
I'm welcome to any discussion, like I said.
Okay.
As far as,
Anything else on
Fred
the
Smith.
recreation we wanna discuss, or anything we gotta vote on?
I'd just like to put it out there, I still haven't heard a dollar figure of how much there is in the rec.
Yep.
How much is the tennis court gonna cost, how much is the ballpark gonna cost? If we do those things, apparently they're the priorities for the rec committee, am I correct in saying that?
We haven't heard that clearly yet.
But what are the priorities if there's 75,000 or 50,000 or 30,000 and we're gonna do 10,000 on the tennis courts, 10,000 on the ball field? That's what I kinda wanna know. I don't wanna go on a shopping trip without knowing what are we committed to
Right.
already and what are we waiting on bids for, as far as spending 25,000 on a zip line, if we have 50,000 and we're gonna spend 25,000 tonight, that limits us on the tennis courts and the ball field. So I kinda wanna know where they are.
And I apologize, because I didn't get any pushback on phase one. I mean, I will say I did it I talked to rec and they said, you're welcome to go ahead and do this on your own and we'll support you. And I did it and the selectmen approved it and we ordered it and I organized
We
team
understand,
volunteers.
we've been through that, we all understand.
Yeah, so that happened, and then this time around, I didn't know what I was doing. I was talking to Martha going, what do I do, how do I do this, and Jack's giving me some advice on, like, well, at this point, you probably should do a
You'd be careful
petition.
with any advice Jack gives
I
you.
understand.
Hey, I'm the writer of, I'm the
But
warrant
I
article
but I
writer.
didn't know what I was doing, and
He's
the
always
first
a
time around, I
historian.
didn't have any push, like, I didn't learn from my first experience, and my first experience went smoothly, so I did it the second time, and now I'm getting like, you did everything wrong, so I'm trying to learn, and so now I'm joining the rec committee. If we try to do the slides and it's a priority for rec, then we're gonna go through and I mean, honestly, I try really hard to dot my i's
Just,
and
it's
cross
no,
my t's.
the criticism of the process has no reflection.
No, but like I'm trying, so, from my perspective, and I totally get what you're saying, is like rec went in and asked for $10,000 to do what they wanted, and knowing that they had enough money in their capital reserve to get everything else done, I said, can we get an extra 25 for this? This costs 25, it's supposed to cost 29, they made them make it cost 25. So now I feel like we raised exactly the right amount of money, extra above what they needed, and I'm just trying to get it done in time to get it done. And I know that you can't approve it without knowing what else is happening, but I know that we did raise over and above the
We're
amount.
no criticism.
Yeah.
We're no criticism. We're just talking in general,
I
and we
understand.
need facts before we can move.
So you raised the money and went into the right place, but we still don't have the recreation committee saying, please
Well-
spend the money on this.
Right.
Okay.
I think
Here's
You
our
want, I
project.
think it's
I think
like
if you
they
look at
want
town
it listed
report-
No, I
out, combined
understand.
everything together.
Right.
is what-
Right,
Right.
I was not prepared until now to understand that me having the entire budget for the slip line done is not all that was needed. Like, that we have to have everything lined up.
Right.
I think your feeling was that when town meeting happened and they approved that money,
Mhm.
that was zip line money.
Mhm.
But our feeling is that's recreation money.
Okay.
So when rec tells us, this is how much we have, this is what we wanna spend on tennis, ball fields, and zip line, then, and bottom line, we're under what the overall, what we have in capital reserve and our budget.
Yeah.
Then I
Like
think
if we walked in
it
tonight and
flows
said,
smooth.
we'll do all of these things and then we'll have $23,865 left, you guys would be approving it and be fine.
I think the town report showed 35 or 36,000 in the bank at the end of the year for the capital reserve fund. And for 35,000 to approve the town meeting, and historically, doesn't get funded until the end of the year after the second tax bill. We're gonna be short funded if we have to wait that long, so we may
Okay.
have to come back again as part of
I
the.
think we have an understanding
Presentation
here
to
where
get
we're
some
going,
advance.
and I think we should come back when you get your stuff together and we'll set up a meeting
Fine.
to do that, okay?
Yep.
Anything else to come up on the
Can I
record?
ask one?
And please let us know the next time you're gonna have a meeting, because,
I just
Wednesday.
let Brandon know.
okay, good.
I just wrote them down, yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
If the rest of the budget comes through, do we need to wait till the next election meeting, or can we bring that to you for, I'm just worried about these
Get it
quotes
done,
expiring.
you let us know, and we'll
Okay.
act.
Okay.
We're very flexible on our meetings and tries.
Okay.
Next Monday night, I cannot attend a meeting, but we have two other gentlemen here who will be happy if we have to.
We often outvote him anyway.
Yeah, that's it, I'm usually the one guy.
I think precedent has been that you guys have voted.
Hey, rookie, be careful.
I know. I'm very junior member. Freshman.
No,
Well,
but
planning board
you know what,
doesn't-
that, voting opposite to her, that's a thing.
That's a thing.
Okay.
That is a thing.
Go to planning
All
board
right,
meeting,
thank
yeah.
you, Megan, thank you.
Yeah, I'm headed in here with the.
Oh, we got old business, Peace Development Authority, Air Cargo.
Hope we get you some more to that.
I do have a couple other things.
Go ahead, please.
too. So
Thank you.
Jack O'Reilly had requested the board support of Senate Bill 379.
Well, I just, not necessarily requesting you support it, just wanna know what you think about it. If you'll, I have a friend who's a state rep who is not from Newington, he used to be. He's from a Republican from the town, and his bill came through, he was on the committee that addressed it, and it's to do with the state selling, what you guys are, the state sells property, it's allowing them to sell under going cost, whatever the right word is.
The state bill is to put it underneath, that it allows the state to sell it underneath average
Fair
retail
market
price.
value, I guess, right. And it was basically tabled, it was sent to us, there's a word for it. Study, he said, if, should the town be interested in getting that bill through, he can try to get it back on the floor and discuss it. He had a feeling with
It was
pass.
basically tabled for the year, but it could come back if somebody
So-
exercises it, it could be an easy
So
pass.
basically, he said if the town would like him to try it, so you guys decide, let me know if you want him to push for it, fine. If you want me to do it. Huh?
Do we know
No,
that?
Dennis Act, Dennis Act, he used to live in town. He was good.
Oh,
He was the, he was the first one.
Oh, okay.
Good friend.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you guys know this is Dennis Malloy, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, that's what he told me last week. He said he's gonna do Greenland, he's already getting calls from I
Why not? But I don't think.
don't think
it's
they
voted
passed
on
that yet, no. He's expecting we'll go back and forth with him.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Dennis served us very, very well. He's a top-notch guy.
Anyway, so that's the building.
Okay.
Martha can let me know if you want me to
All right. Thank
give the
you.
message that yes, please try to get it through if you're not interested this year and email you know why.
Okay.
You know what, it's 5 layers deep though, what that even means, so.
Let's just
We,
let me know.
we should at least chat about it.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Ready, Martha?
Okay, grounds care bid. In your left-hand pocket of your binders is the summary that you
Yeah,
had the other night. JLG Landscaping. For 22, they'll do the grounds care of buildings and
yeah.
Simple question for the board, how come they don't take care of the cemetery?
They put that on another bid.
Separate bid.
And
Why?
they're
The cemetery
separate.
trustees pay for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are a separate entity that doesn't always agree with the selectmen
Okay,
on how to move forward.
because I noticed that we, on the, what do I wanna call it? Manifest last week, we had a spring cleanup that was separate, which was, you know, almost 15% of the total budget for all these grounds for the year for spring cleanup.
But that was just, wasn't that just Fabian Grounds Care? That was
Yes.
just the cemetery.
Correct.
And he just does his, like a lot of landscapers just do their total bid and then they break it up
Okay,
into
so that wasn't,
8 even ones. That's what Fabian does.
okay, so that was $1,600 and that was because that's broken up into different, we're gonna pay more than that?
No, that's how his bid, like he puts his bid out for 10,000, or let's say 8,000 a year.
Okay.
Let's just say that's the number.
Yep.
Then he submits 8 invoices over the year for 1/8 of that bid amount. A lot of landscapers
Yes.
don't do it, like the other landscaper bills us every 2 weeks
I
all
understand.
year round.
I understand.
Okay,
So the cemetery trustees reimburse the town for that?
A budget.
part of their budget.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't have any other questions on this bid.
Is that,
All in favor of the landscape bid?
Angie, you have a question?
I did,
Pardon?
is that the same company that was doing it last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been doing it for
3 years, 4 years
Mhm.
now?
The only response to the bid.
Okay,
It was publicly advertised, it was on our website, it was in the Herald, it was everywhere.
okay.
We even extended it.
Yes,
We only got the one bid, so we extended it, remember?
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's Bill 378, we took care of, right?
And I just have one other thing, if I can bother you. Craig Daigle sent in an email asking about the trouble he's having with cathode ray tubes. He's having many people bring in 3 or 4 sometimes, and he's concerned that some are coming in from out of town. He's asking the board if you would consider a 2 cathode ray tube limit per year per household.
My thought on, I think I wrote on this, I don't know if that's inappropriate or not, but maybe we can make that, I hate to see the guys down there enforcing something. So maybe you can make it a suggestion only. you know, I don't wanna give them authority to refuse people using the transfer station.
Good point.
But that maybe you could put up a sign and mark off that people did do one or two or something like that. But I don't think the enforcement should lie with the
I also understand
gentleman who got it.
Craig's concern that he feels the town is being taken advantage
Yeah.
of. You know, people are
Get that
getting
way,
these tubes from outside of town and throwing them away for their family members
right?
who live in Dover, Portsmouth, because Newington's transfer station is free,
Right, you get that right.
so.
Dan?
Or you could have an annual limit. With the residences in Newington, if every residence is entitled to 2 bulbs,
Yeah,
800 bulbs, and when they accumulate their limit, if we hit the limit, say in October, you stop taking them for the year. Because if I have 6 bulbs and you have none, and your neighbor has none, I should be able to throw away my 6. You know what I mean? On a town annual amount.
Yeah, the only thing with the limit, once you shut it off, people are gonna stockpile them in their garage, and then the day they open up
it's
again,
gonna happen, it's gonna get worse.
it's
Will
like,
we even go over the limit with that particular item? Question.
yeah, I don't know, we'd have to talk to Craig, but
Okay,
I just think, you know, we need to hear his concern that,
Agreed, and I think we should make it a signage, some signage, or have them get a log that says what addresses dropped off, how many. I just don't wanna say there should be refusal authority or
yeah,
that kind of stuff. I mean, he could
Yeah.
complain to us and say, hey, this resident seems to be bringing them in from the greater Rockingham County.
Yep.
Maybe we can do something about it, but
yeah, cause
keep
they,
them out of the weeds, otherwise that just gets ugly. Especially depending upon who it is that's there, who's there in the future.
yeah, they like to be nice guys down there, and I don't wanna change that.
Right,
Yeah.
It's a friendly place.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I had except for Ellen's issue on the cargo.
Okay,
Ellen has an issue?
Yeah.
When don't I?
I was gonna say, whether we can air publicly.
Thank you, Martha, and good luck tomorrow. Go ahead.
Brandon asked this to be on the
Yeah.
agenda.
I'd like to see if the board will schedule a meeting, or at least put on an agenda in the future to have public input on what's happening to Pease, as I think with the air cargo, with different fuel farms. Obviously, we don't have a lot of answers, having just heard from the PDA ourselves, that they don't have a lot of answers. But I think I think there's a lot of preparedness going on in the communities around Newington, and we probably ought to start talking about it, thinking about it, just taking some input from the folks in town that, you know, some of them have some real good experience with this type of stuff. Maybe that's a good opportunity for our PDA rep to hear our concerns about it,
Two
and just kind of
PDA,
have two PDA reps, right, our
I
part-time
include
too.
both of them.
Right.
I mean,
And just hear out the citizens and try to give them what we know. A lot of times, a lot of kind of misinformation comes out, right, about
Yeah,
they're approving a fuel farm today, and it's really not what it was.
right.
You know, at this point, there is no deal, there is no authorized or specific user of a cargo space. It's very early in the process, but it is a good time for us to get kind of rounded up.
Right.
I was mentioning to these gentlemen earlier, there's other council that we have that we employ at the town, or that we contract at the town that's involved in this for other towns, other communities. It might be worth just hearing from them what other communities are doing to prepare for this, because it's not something that I don't think a lot of the residents want, so. I was hoping we could put that on an agenda.
Randy, you got a good handle on this. Would you mind being a front man for the three of us as the rep?
Yep,
Or selectman that would be contact person, that would make it. And we
Yeah,
all, yes,
Even if he's not available, let me know any date that you set for a meeting. If you wanna do it on the 18th, I am available.
if you are, why don't we throw together a
Is
meeting?
that okay with you?
I will, that's fine with me. I cannot, I got a commitment.
So we won't have, you'll make the agenda anyways, I'm sure, Ted, but, we
Yeah.
can put that on it, and that's
Absolutely.
probably about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you wanna do a
I think on a monthly basis, it would be outstanding to have our PDA reps on the selectmen schedule with whatever is happening over there.
Thank you for your input.
Right now.
Yeah, 'cause I missed that meeting, So give me,
Dennis was there.
Yeah, because I know, Amazon just canceled their facility in Hudson.
oh,
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Why did they do that?
I can't
uh-oh.
What one?
I didn't know if you were done with your meeting or not.
No,
Not
just
yet.
finishing up.
Give me 5 minutes.
I think we're on the
Yeah,
last
we're
one.
on a break, right now, it's just, we have no recorder tonight, so the only thing we have is the camera.
Okay,
okay.
well,
All right, well,
I'll bring it to you, Dennis, as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
all right, so you're gonna
we-
schedule
got everything
something
else
for the
done except for
18th?
stuff.
Yes.
to relevant work?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All
Maybe
right,
a single point agenda.
I think that covers everything. Motion to adjourn tonight.
I'd make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ted.